A shocking eruption between Team USA manager Mark DeRosa and several of his star players has exploded into public view on Friday afternoon, March 7th, 2026, just hours after Aaron Judge's explosive media confrontation. And according to sources who witnessed the entire incident unfold inside Team USA's private training facility. What started as a routine team meeting to discuss strategy for the upcoming game against Brazil turned into an absolute screaming match that saw multiple players walk out. DeRosa threatening to bench superstars, and the entire team chemistry that USA Baseball has been trying to build completely falling apart less than 48 hours before their opening game of the World Baseball Classic tournament. According to sources with direct knowledge of what happened during this shocking clash, the eruption began when Mark DeRosa announced during the team meeting that he was planning to bat Aaron Judge third in the lineup against Brazil, rather than in his usual cleanup spot, with Mookie Betts hitting cleanup instead, because DeRosa believes Judge's recent emotional state after destroying his critics in the media session makes him to amped up and to likely to try to do too much at the plate, rather than staying within himself and taking what the pitcher gives him. But, according to sources who were present, before DeRosa could even finish explaining his reasoning, Mike Trout interrupted him and said something very close to, "That's the dumbest lineup decision I've ever heard. And if you're making decisions based on Aaron's press conference rather than on who gives us the best chance to win, then maybe you shouldn't be managing this team." And according to sources, that comment from Trout triggered an immediate eruption from DeRosa, who, according to multiple witnesses, stood up from his seat, pointed at Trout, and said in a voice loud enough to echo through the room, "You want to question my decisions? You want to tell me how to manage? Then maybe you should have accepted the captaincy when it was offered to you instead of passing it off to someone else and then second-guessing every decision I make from the sidelines." According to sources, the room went completely silent after DeRosa's outburst at Trout. But then, according to sources, Freddie Freeman stood up and said, "Mark, we respect you as a manager, but you can't bench or move our best hitter in the lineup because you're worried about his emotions. That's not how championship teams operate." And that's when, according to sources, the meeting completely disintegrated into chaos, with multiple players voicing support for either DeRosa's authority or for the players' right to question decisions, with the divide breaking down largely along veteran versus younger player lines, and with Aaron Judge himself sitting silently through the entire eruption, looking increasingly uncomfortable about being the cause of the conflict. The shocking clash ended, according to sources, with DeRosa walking out of the meeting and telling his coaching staff, "I'm the manager. The lineup is final, and anyone who doesn't like it can sit on the bench," which, according to sources, left several star players furious and questioning whether they even want to play for Team USA under these circumstances. The shocking eruption between Mark DeRosa and Team USA players happened on Friday afternoon, March 7th, 2026, at approximately 2:30 p.m. Arizona time at the team's training facility in Scottsdale. According to sources familiar with the team's schedule, the meeting where the clash occurred was planned as a routine strategy session to go over Brazil's pitching staff, to discuss defensive alignments, and to finalize the lineup for Sunday's opening game of the World Baseball Classic tournament. According to sources who were present when the meeting began, the atmosphere in the room was already somewhat tense because of the media firestorm that Aaron Judge's morning press conference had created. According to sources, several players had spent the early afternoon dealing with text messages and phone calls from media members, asking for reactions to Judge's comments. And there was a sense that the team's focus had been disrupted by external drama rather than being centered on baseball preparation. Mark DeRosa opened the meeting, according to sources, by addressing the Judge media situation directly, telling the team something along the lines of, "I know there's been a lot of noise today about Aaron's press conference, but we need to put that behind us and focus on Brazil. What Aaron said is between him and the media. Our job is to be ready to play baseball on Sunday. According to sources, that attempt to move past the drama seemed to work initially, with players nodding in agreement and the meeting shifting to discussing Brazil's roster and pitching matchups. But according to sources, the eruption began approximately 20 minutes into the meeting when DeRosa transitioned to discussing the lineup he planned to use against Brazil. According to sources and according to accounts from multiple people who were present, DeRosa said something very close to, "I've been thinking about our lineup construction, and I've decided to make a change from what we've been doing in practice. I'm going to bat Aaron third instead of fourth, and I'm moving Mookie to cleanup. My reasoning is that Aaron is carrying a lot of emotional weight right now, after this morning. And I think having him hit third takes some pressure off and allows him to just see pitches and get comfortable, rather than feeling like he has to be the guy driving in runs from the cleanup spot." According to sources who witnessed the immediate reaction, several players exchanged glances when DeRosa said this, and there was visible body language suggesting disagreement even before anyone spoke up. But according to sources, it was Mike Trout who broke the silence first, interrupting DeRosa before he could continue with his explanation. According to sources and according to accounts from multiple witnesses, Trout said something very close to, "Mark, with all due respect, that's the dumbest lineup decision I've ever heard. You're batting our best hitter third instead of fourth because you think he's too emotional. That's not managing. That's overthinking. And if you're making decisions based on press conferences and emotions rather than on who gives us the best chance to win, then maybe you shouldn't be managing this team." The room's atmosphere, according to sources, changed instantly from tense to explosive after Trout's comments. According to sources, Mark DeRosa's face flushed red, and he stood up from his chair at the front of the room in a movement that sources describe as both sudden and aggressive. According to sources and multiple witness accounts, DeRosa pointed at Trout and said in a raised voice, "You want to question my decisions, Mike? You want to tell me how to manage this team? Then maybe you should have accepted the captaincy when USA Baseball offered it to you in the first place. Maybe you should have taken responsibility for leading instead of passing it off to someone else and then sitting back and second-guessing every decision I make from the sidelines." According to sources who were present, DeRosa's outburst at Trout shocked the room into complete silence, with players staring at DeRosa with expressions that ranged from surprise to anger to discomfort. According to sources, Aaron Judge, who was sitting in the middle of the room, visibly tensed up and looked down at the floor, appearing deeply uncomfortable about being the subject of the conflict that was erupting around him. The silence lasted, according to sources, for approximately 5 to 10 seconds before Freddie Freeman stood up from his seat and attempted to de-escalate the situation while also defending the player's perspective. According to sources and witness accounts, Freeman said something like, "Mark, look, we all respect you as a manager and we respect your authority. But you have to understand that moving Aaron in the lineup because you're worried about his emotional state isn't a baseball decision. It's a psychological evaluation that you're not qualified to make. We trust Aaron to do his job regardless of what happened this morning. That's what championship teams do. They trust their best players in big moments." But according to sources, DeRosa was not in a mood to be de-escalated or to accept Freeman's attempt at mediation. According to sources, DeRosa responded to Freeman by saying something close to, "I appreciate your input, Freddie, but I'm the manager of this team, and lineup construction is my responsibility, not a democracy. I've been around baseball my entire life. I know when a player is carrying too much weight, and I know how to manage a roster to get the best performance out of everyone. If you disagree with my decision, that's fine. But the decision is made." According to sources who witnessed what happened next, DeRosa's assertion of managerial authority triggered multiple players to speak up simultaneously, creating a cacophony of voices where it was difficult to tell who was saying what. According to sources, some of the fragments that could be heard included things like, "This is exactly why we need player input on major decisions. You're overthinking this. Just let Judge hit fourth like he always does, and we're going to lose if we're playing. Scared. The chaos, according to sources, lasted for approximately 45 seconds before Mark DeRosa raised his voice even louder and said something that sources say cut through the noise. Enough. I am the manager of this team, and I have final say on the lineup. The lineup card will show Aaron Judge batting third and Mookie Betts batting fourth, and that is non-negotiable. If anyone has a problem with that decision, you can sit on the bench and watch the game instead of playing in it. That goes for everyone in this room, regardless of how many All-Star games you've been to. According to sources, that threat from DeRosa to bench players who disagreed with him caused an immediate shift in the room's dynamics, with several players standing up as if preparing to leave. According to sources who were watching Aaron Judge during this exchange, Judge finally spoke up at this point, saying something like, "Mark, guys, can we all just calm down? I don't want my situation causing problems for the team. I'll hit wherever you want me to hit. It doesn't matter to me." But according to sources, Judge's attempt to diffuse the tension was largely ignored, as the conflict had taken on a life of its own beyond just the lineup decision. According to sources, Mookie Betts spoke up for the first time and said something along the lines of, "Mark, nobody's questioning your authority as manager. But when you make decisions that the entire team disagrees with, you have to be open to hearing why we disagree. That's not insubordination. That's communication." Mark DeRosa's response to Betts, according to sources, was to say, "I've heard your concerns and I've made my decision. This meeting is over. We'll practice at 4 p.m. and everyone better be ready to work because Brazil is not going to care about our internal drama." And according to sources, with that statement, DeRosa walked out of the meeting room without waiting for further discussion, or without giving players a chance to respond. The immediate aftermath of the meeting, according to sources who remained in the room after DeRosa left, was a mix of anger, frustration, and concern about team chemistry. According to sources, Mike Trout was visibly upset and was heard saying to other players something like, "If he thinks he can threaten to bench me, he's lost his mind. I'm here playing for free for my country, not to be disrespected by someone on a power trip." According to sources, Freddie Freeman attempted to calm Trout and other agitated players by saying things like, "Look, we're all frustrated right now, but we can't let this destroy what we're trying to accomplish. Let's practice this afternoon. Let's play the game on Sunday. And if we need to address this with USA Baseball after the game, we can do that." Aaron Judge's reaction during and after the meeting, according to sources who observed him, was to remain largely silent and to appear deeply uncomfortable about being the catalyst for the conflict, even though he didn't ask to be moved in the lineup and didn't want the confrontation to happen. According to sources, Judge was heard telling a few teammates something like, "I'm sorry, guys. I should have just kept my mouth shut this morning instead of going off on the media. Now, I've created all this drama for the team." The division among players about who was right in the clash has broken down, largely along generational and personality lines, according to sources who've spoken with multiple team members. According to sources, veteran players like Trout, Betts, and Freeman generally sided with the players' right to question managerial decisions that they view as questionable, with these veterans arguing that on a short-term tournament team where everyone has equal status as professionals, the manager needs to earn respect through good decisions rather than demanding obedience through threats. But according to sources, some younger players and players with less confrontational personalities have expressed support for DeRosa's authority, arguing that you can't have 25 different opinions about every decision and that someone needs to have final authority or the team descends into chaos. According to sources, these DeRosa supporters acknowledge that his lineup decision might be questionable, but argue that undermining him publicly in a team meeting sets a bad precedent. The USA Baseball officials' awareness of the eruption between DeRosa and the players came quickly. According to sources, as DeRosa himself apparently reported to USA Baseball's tournament director that there had been disagreement during the team meeting, but that everything was under control. According to sources, USA Baseball officials have decided not to intervene directly but are monitoring the situation closely to ensure it doesn't escalate further or affect the team's performance. The Brazil team's awareness of Team USA's internal turmoil is confirmed according to sources who've spoken with people connected to the Brazilian squad. According to sources, Brazil's coaching staff has heard through back channels about the DeRosa player clash, and they're planning to use it as motivational material, telling their players that Team USA is divided and distracted and that Brazil has an opportunity to shock the world by beating them in the opening game as of now. Friday evening, March 7th, 2026. Team USA is in crisis less than 48 hours before their WBC opener against Brazil, with manager Mark DeRosa and star players including Mike Trout involved in a shocking clash over lineup decisions that saw threats to bench superstars, players questioning managerial authority, and team chemistry falling apart. The eruption was triggered by DeRosa's decision to bat Aaron Judge third instead of fourth because of concerns about Judge's emotional state after his media destruction of critics. Trout called it the dumbest decision ever and questioned whether DeRosa should manage. DeRosa fired back about Trout declining the captaincy. Freeman tried to mediate. DeRosa threatened to bench dissenters. Judge tried to defuse but was ignored. Meeting ended with DeRosa walking out. Players divided on who's right. Brazil aware and planning to exploit the chaos. Whether USA can recover chemistry before Sunday's game or whether this eruption destroys their tournament chances before it starts remains to be seen. The most dysfunctional 48 hours in Team USA baseball history. USA-Brazil game overshadowed by shocking DeRosa players' eruption. DeRosa announced batting Judge third, not fourth, due to emotional concerns post-media destruction. Trout interrupted. Dumbest decision ever. Maybe you shouldn't manage? DeRosa exploded. Maybe you should have accepted captaincy instead of second-guessing from sidelines. Freeman tried mediating. Not a psychology call. Trust best players. DeRosa asserted authority. Threatened to bench dissenters. Multiple players spoke up simultaneously, creating chaos. Judging Furtable. Tried defusing aisle, hit anywhere. But defended player input. DeRosa walked out meeting over. Be ready to practice. Trout, furious post-meeting won't be disrespected on power trip. Players divided. Veterans support questioning authority. Younger players support DeRosa's final say. USA, baseball monitoring but not intervening. Brazil aware, planning to exploit dysfunction. Team chemistry shattered 48 hours before opener. Most dysfunctional Team USA moment in history.